acknowledge that we were founded on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Attawandaronk, the Mississauga and Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and now live on land that is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We have many representatives working across this land now known as Ontario, and we acknowledge that there are 46 treaties and other agreements that cover the territory. We are grateful to be able to work and live on this land, and thankful to the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people who have cared for these territories since time immemorial, and who continue to contribute to the strength of Ontario and to all communities across the province. To continue to center reconciliation, we encourage our team, partners, students, and teachers to take time to learn about the lands they are currently on. Visit native-land.ca for more information.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's virtual food and farm field trip. I'm Madison, and I'm from Eggscape, and we have some exciting things to go through today. We're so excited to have all you educators and students from across Ontario joining us for this special event celebrating Canadian Agriculture Literacy Month. So today we're going to go on a sweet adventure to Ziibaakdakaan Maple, an Indigenous-owned maple syrup operation in Neyaashiinigmiing, Ontario. Today we'll get a first-hand look at the fascinating world of maple syrup production, from tapping trees to collecting and boiling sap. So maple syrup is a product that's very dear to us since sugar maple trees are actually only grown in certain areas of the world, and we happen to have a large amount of them. Here is a map that shows exactly where these sugar maple trees grow. And as you can see, a large percentage are in Ontario and Quebec and a part of the United States. So that actually means that Canada creates 71% of the maple syrup in the world, which is awesome. All right. So let's get ready to learn, and make sure you send in any questions that you have into the chat for Nathan to answer. Also, for a chance to win some delicious maple syrup, please send in photos of your class participating in the field trip today using a link that was sent to your email. All right. So today we are thrilled to have Nathan Kishig here. He is the park manager at Cape Croker Park, and he's going to be our expert guide today. So he'll be sharing the knowledge that makes this whole process kind of run to make our maple syrup. So thank you for taking the time to teach us today, Nathan. And I'm going to pass it over to you to introduce yourself and begin our tour today.
Wow, thank you, Madison. My name is Nathan Kishig, and as Madison said, I manage the Cape Croker Park, and I also manage our maple syrup operation as part of the Cape Croker Park. And we just happen to call that Ziibaakdakaan, which in Ojibwe means sugar bush. So Ziibaakdakaan Maple is a kind of a label and the name that we come up with, and it was quite fitting because this historically is, for our people, the sugar bush. And our band members have been tapping here for many years. And so if anybody doesn't know where that is, it's on the Bruce Peninsula, just about 20 minutes northeast of Wyerton. We have about 4,600 taps this year. And today is very exciting because the temperatures are up and the sap is starting to flow. I have some crews that are out tapping trees as we speak, and we're having a pretty good run today, and we hope to get the rest of our taps in the next couple days. When you think about a maple syrup operation, you often wonder, like, what exactly is that? And for me, it was kind of a trip back to when I remember my grandfather making maple syrup, and he used the old kettles and that to boil or to render the syrup down. It was a long and hard process, and most of the family would be there to help collect sap and to collect wood to start the fires and that. Our maple syrup operation is a little different, although it's still, the principles are the same. You got to collect the maple syrup, or sap, excuse me, and you have to boil it down. The sap comes in at around 2% sugar bricks or 2% sugar content. And in order for that to be maple syrup, we have to bring the sugar content or the bricks up to 66%. And if we had to do that the old way, that would take us a long time to do that. So we use a number of different methods. We collect lines or collect sap using a vacuum pump, and we string main lines out through the forest, and from the main lines we string lateral lines out to the individual trees, and we attach drop lines onto the trees and turn the power on, and if the temperatures are right, we'll get some maple syrup. Our season starts back in the fall. We start going through the forest and checking the lines, because over the summertime and from the previous year, branches will come down, animals will chew on lines. So we like to get out in advance of our maple season to check all the lines and do repairs as we can, remove the branches, and some places trees will come across the lines and hold our main lines down. So we like to get those things all free and clear before the snow comes. And then immediately after the snow comes, we're back out again, because the temperatures once again, or the weather once again plays havoc on the lines. More branches break, they come down, they land on the lines. The added weight of the snow will hold the lines down. So we're out shortly after Christmas and starting to go through the sugar bush and cleaning up the lines. This year it's been a real old-time winter. When we first come back to the sugar house after our Christmas break, we see that the sugar house is just covered with deep snow, and it just kept snowing and snowing and snowing. So we've been getting snow for pretty much like 6 weeks since Christmas time, and the snow has accumulated to, like, on top of our sugar house, that was like 3 feet of snow. In the bush now, there's about 3 feet of snow, so we're having to venture out on snowshoes to do our tapping. It's quite the process. It takes a lot of energy to put on the snowshoes and to go out and tap. And you think that you can tap maybe 250 trees a day. I think you're probably doing pretty good. So we're looking at several days of tapping. Madison, or anything else?
I was just going to say, do you want me to throw on one of the videos of you in the deep snow pulling the lines out, or maybe tapping a new section?
Okay, our little project that we had before the season started, we wanted to move one of our collection tanks across a road in the campground. We have to do that because last year we were able to pave some of the roads in the park, and it brought the road up a little closer to the lines that we had set out before. So we wanted to have at least 14.5 feet clearance from the middle of the road to our sap line, so that the trailers and trucks and that won't take the lines down. So we ended up moving the whole tank over across another road, and then replacing and moving our vacuum line and the main line to that tank. So that took us about 2 weeks to be able to do that. And we're all learning as we go along. I have an excellent crew working for me and working with me. Everybody's got ideas on how to do things. We just finished up yesterday very satisfied with the outcome. There's still little things that we can do to that. Yeah, a good little project. So on the weekend, I was out tapping. I knew we were going to get some warm weather, so I thought I'd give myself a chance to get used to and get prepared for what we're going to be doing. So on the weekend, I was out tapping on Saturday and Sunday, and the temperatures were cold, and it was a really crusty snow. And the lines that were getting stuck under the snow, I had to break the crust on there to pull the lines up, and that just added more work to the job itself. So you can have that video, Madison.
-10 again today. Working up a sweat. Snow is crusty and line is buried. So what I have to do is walk on top of this, try to break through the crust and spring that line back up. Just adds to the work. But somebody's gonna do it.
All right, so all those lines, some of them get buried under the snow, and it's your job to pull them all up to make sure that sap from those trees can still flow into your sugar house. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. So today we have guys going out in pairs so that you come across a difficult situation like that, then 2 hands are better than 1 to be able to do that, because it's very, very tiring.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say we have a lot of questions actually coming in from our viewers.
Yeah.
Is it all right if we take some time just to answer a couple before going into the next part?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Let's get a question. All right, Rachel's wondering, what are the ideal weather conditions for making maple syrup?
Ideally, you want to have like cold nights, like sub-zero temperatures, and followed by warm days. 2-3 degrees would be good. 4 degrees. I think today we're out at 4 degrees and the sap is pouring in. Last night, it didn't go below freezing, but it had been freezing before that. We're looking at another cold spell, I think, tomorrow. So the temperatures will go down tonight, and we hope that the sap will keep running. And then it'll get cold again. And so people think that the sap is going to run steady the whole time that we're out here, like it could be for 6 weeks. But that's not so. We'll have runs, so that what they call it when the sap is coming in, that you'll end up with colder nights, so the sap will stop flowing, and the days will warm up, and the trees will start producing or having a positive pressure and start to push the sap back out again. And it gets cold at night, the sap will start, the tree reverses its pressure and starts to draw the sap back in. So if it gets cold and we don't get any sap the next day, that's no big deal, because we know eventually it's going to warm up again and we'll have another run coming. So during those times, we can use those periods to be able to do some maintenance once again on the lines, or start cleaning up, because we're going to be hopefully boiling maple syrup soon.
Awesome. All right. Why don't we do one more question, and then why don't we go right into how you turn that sap into syrup?
Yes.
All right. How old was Nathan when he started making maple syrup? This is from Jessica.
Jessica, I was for this operation, I think we were in 2017, so I'd be 57 when we started. And I did help my dad and my grandfather, but I wasn't the lead hand. I was more of the little kid that got in the way.
How old would you say when you started getting in the way of your dad and grandfather?
Probably about 5 years old. And yeah, about 5 years old.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's great. Awesome. So now that we know how much work it is to just tap the trees and get ready for the season, what do you do with the sap once it flows into your sugar bush or into your sugar house?
Well, I set out some pails earlier on in the like just before last weekend. I set some pails out, and we thought that if we do get some sap, people in the community would come by, and if they wanted to drink a fresh sap, then they could help themselves. So I brought one of the pails in, and I think if you can see that, and inside there's a hydrometer, and that hydrometer is used for measuring the sugar content. So what I'm seeing on there now is just a little over, like about 1.2%. And for the first run of the year, that's not bad. I think because we sanitize the lines with the alcohol in the fall, or when the season is over, then that alcohol stays in the line. So we're getting a lot of debris and a lot of alcohol and stuff coming through. So it'll be like that for the first time that we open up all the lines. So behind me is our extractor, and you can see that sap is starting to come in. There's the vacuum pressure there that's about 8%, or excuse me, 8 inches of vacuum. But we do have sap coming in, and it's starting to turn a little bit clearer. We bring the sap in, and we have these beautiful 2,500 gallon vats, stainless steel. And this is where we bring the raw sap in, and we'll collect it in here. And when these tanks start to fill up, and we think that we have enough that we could possibly start to boil, we'll run that sap through a reverse osmosis machine. And the reverse osmosis will concentrate the sap. So on an average, sap will come out of the tree at around 2%. And when we put that through the reverse osmosis, that'll concentrate that down to, or excuse me, up to 8.5%. And just by doing that through the reverse osmosis machine, that will remove 75% of the water from the sap. So we call that concentrate. And then we have the water that comes in, and we collect that as well. And we have a tank, 2 tanks upstairs here. And these tanks are about 1,200 gallons each. And one tank will be used for the concentrate, and the other one will be used for the pre-meat. The pre-meat is actually just the water that we've removed from the sap. And we can use that water for cleaning our tools and everything, cleaning the floors, cleaning our pans. And the concentrate will flow by gravity feed from these tanks through this maze of plumbing work down to our evaporator. And that's just gravity. Our evaporator is wood fired. It's 4 by 16 feet. I don't know if you can see that, but the sap runs through these lines, and it starts to heat up. And as it heats up, this is where the evaporation process really starts. And as the sap moves down and gets into the first pans that we have, so in the preheating stage, we might be up to around 16 or 18% sugar content. And by the time it gets to the first set of pans, then it really starts to cook. And the sap is brought to a real hard boil, hard, vigorous boil. And it'll flow. And because it is dense, the sap gets denser as it boils. It follows like a path through these pans. And by the time we get to this last pan, we're looking at sap that is just about finished. We try to bring it up to a temperature, and the temperature changes with the barometric pressure. So it could be anywhere from like 7 degrees above the boiling temperature of water. So that would be 219 degrees. And so we're testing that as we go along. And then we're looking for that syrup to be almost at 66%. When it gets that close to that, we will open a valve, and they call that the draw off. And we don't leave that open. And we fill this tank here, and this is our finishing pan. And the finishing pan is fired by propane. We can control the temperature better that way. And we're going to be testing the syrup in that pan until we get to that 66%. So how do we do that? How do we test that? We use what they call a hydrometer. And the hydrometer, we put into what is called a Murphy cup. And that's this deal. So we'll fill this up, and we will put in a hydrometer. And the hydrometer will tell us what the density of the sap is. So when it gets to around 60 or gets to that 66%, we have to match the numbers on the dial with what is on our hydrometer. And when those numbers match, we know that we have maple syrup. Ta-da.
Ta-da. That's awesome. Your operation is quite intense, all those big bins. And as you said too, which I think might be different than maybe what other people have heard, you guys do wood fired. So what
Yes.
does that mean exactly? And then maybe we'll go into some questions after you've explained that, if that's okay.
Yeah, wood fired is just that we use the wood from the forest to heat or to boil our maple syrup. And that is in a huge arch. And we can put lengths of wood in there. And when that is filled, it should run, like boil your sap or your syrup for about 45 minutes or so. I guess we were, I really wanted to have the old time experience doing this. So you could use steam to boil your sap or your syrup, or you could use oil. But wood fired, I think it kind of adds to the story, because we're using wood from the forest. We're managing the forest. We're removing trees, and using that kind of like as recycling. Yeah. And some trees in the forest really need to be removed. Like they may have some sort of diseases to them, which may affect other trees. So we would remove those trees, and in turn turn that into firewood for our boiling operation. And I really think it does add to the flavor. People often say when we're selling our maple syrup in the Foodland in Wyerton, and they'll say there's a distinct flavor to our maple syrup. And that could be just because the fire, but it also could be from the land. We're on the limestone on the Niagara Escarpment. We don't do a really intense forest management, so I like to see that we have a variety of species of trees remaining in the forest, and the ground cover as well, all the shrubs and everything there. I think that all adds to the flavor.
Absolutely. Definitely a labor of love if you have to stoke that fire every 45 minutes or whatever amount of time that you said. And then, yeah, taking care of the land is just, it's a very cool process. I'm seeing a ton of questions come in, so why don't we answer some? And then we only have about 5 minutes left today, so we'll answer some questions and then have to say goodbye to everyone.
Okay.
All right. All right. So what are some traditional methods of making maple syrup, and are any of those used now?
There are still people on the reserve that use, they call them kettles, like big black pots, cast iron pots. Some people are still doing that. And yeah, it just makes for a real nice weekend and a time for family to get together and catch up on old times and trade stories while they're boiling sap. I think because of, if you want to do the traditional collecting methods, then you're going to be using like birch bark containers, and that would be a really slow process. So I think people would do it just to see how it's done and to kind of enjoy that. They're not going to be using the taps and the spiles and the tools that we use, but they would put a mark in the side of the tree and help to just start the sap flowing.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, let's get another question. What is your favorite way to eat maple syrup?
I've been putting it in my coffee. I do like pancakes, and sometimes just a bowl of just maple syrup and having a crust of bread or something just to dip in it. It's just fantastic.
Amazing. All right, let's get another question. About how much maple syrup does Nathan make at his farm? This is from Isabella.
So we have 4,600 trees that are tapped, and we're hoping that we will get at least 4,600 liters. When we first started was probably, like they say, when the first time you do it and you're using all your equipment is new, that'll be the best time that you'll have. And we fill 130 liter stainless steel barrels, and one year we had 44 130 liter pails that were full at the end of our season. That was the best one so far.
Wow. That is awesome. All right, let's do another one. All right, this one is from Lincoln. How many liters do you get per week?
Of syrup? Yep. When we're boiling every day, we can do almost 3 barrels. So 390 liters in a day. Sometimes we'll be boiling day after day after day, and then we'll have a cold spell. And if we have syrup or sap to boil, we'll boil that. If we don't have it, then we'll just do maintenance and stuff and wait for the temperatures to change around and get ready for the next boil. We also use that downtime to bottle our maple syrup. So we're always busy right from the start. Since the syrup starts being made, we start bottling.
So you can't schedule the trees to produce sap on certain days. You have to kind of go with the flow and be ready at any moment.
Yeah, and it took us up until October to get all the syrup bottled. We are running a campground, of course, and we're taking maple syrup orders in. So we're bottling almost all summer.
Amazing.
It creates jobs for the people.
Absolutely. Let's do a couple more questions. All right. What are the most common issues of making maple syrup?
I don't think there's a day that goes by that you don't have some type of issue.
Yeah, I definitely have a picture of one of the issues that you have from critters.
Yeah. Some of the animals that we have in the forest here, and they're natural here. So we have bears that are waking up that'll wake up and decide they need a drink of sap, and they'll chew a hole in the line. Squirrels, turkeys, fisher. What else would be there? Mice. If your lines fall to the ground, the mice will come into a hole in them. Yeah, there's just so many different things that can happen.
All right, let's do a couple. Just do 2 more questions. All right. How many liters can you get from one tree?
We're looking at, hopefully, if everything goes well, we should be able to get maybe 1.5 liters of syrup per tree at the end of the season.
That's awesome. And how long can you take sap from a tree?
In the season, or
Year over year, like is it 10 years or 2 years?
no? What we use a different method of tapping. That we'll tap one tree, or we'll tap a tree that is 12 inches in diameter. We'll put one tap in. We try not to tap anything under that diameter. And then when trees get to be like 18 inches in over at the diameter at breast height, then we may put 2 taps in. So if you're careful, and what we're trying to do is making sure that our operation is going to be sustainable. So we're going to be moving the taps every year to a different location on the tree. And hopefully by the time you make like 360 degrees around that tree, it may take you 25 years to do that. But by the time you get back to where you started, you should have probably 2 inches of new growth there. And so that's sustainability.
Awesome. All right, let's do a last question. Unfortunately, I think this is all we have time for. All right, how do you prevent the sap from sticking onto things like you and the equipment?
Well, I usually get somebody else to get in the way so it doesn't splash on me. So you really get there. Oh, it's every day there's something. So yeah, that you really can't help it. You're gonna get sap or syrup splashed on you at some point, whether you're moving a barrel around or opening a barrel, or a barrel overflows, which happens occasionally.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a part of the process.
Then we just wipe it off. Like we get boiling water and just clean everything off. And then if it's on the surface of our barrels and that, then we'll put rubbing alcohol or put alcohol on there just to sterilize that. So that, so that we don't want anything to contaminate our product.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Nathan, for answering all these questions. I know there's a ton more that everyone has sent in, but unfortunately, that's all we have time for. And just make sure that you explore yourselves in your classroom. I use our activity kit just to learn more about all the different ways to make maple syrup and the history of maple syrup. There's so much to learn, and it's an amazing treat that I love learning about every year. I love visiting. And yeah, Nathan, do you have anything to say to everyone before we head off for the day?
Thank you very much for having me. It's been really fun. Today has been really stressful because we're trying to get out and tap trees. So this morning was chaos. So over the hump now, and we get to enjoy the rest of the day. And
For anybody that's out there, go visit a sugarbush. Go visit maple syrup producer. They'll be happy to show you around, and everybody wants to tell stories about maple syrup. We're open here now, so when we're up and running, if people want to drop by, we're going to be doing maple tours. We're having a maple syrup day in April, the first weekend in April. If you're up and around this way, by all means, come visit.
Amazing. And if you want a chance to taste some of this delicious maple syrup, please submit a photo into our photo submission contest, and you'll be entered for a chance to win some syrup once it's created, because right now the sap's coming in, so they're still making it, so it'll be fresh. So please submit a photo. And yeah, I think that's it. Have a great rest of your Canadian Agriculture Literacy Month. We do have more activities and virtual field trips coming up, so please look out at eggscape.ca for various events. And again, thank you so much, Nathan, for everything that you shared with us today. And I hope you have a great season.
Thank you.
All right.